This is the Begin Within podcast, where we believe real, lasting health and fitness requires you to start inside before you work out. I'm your host, Nate Slegger, and I'm here to show you behind the scenes of fitness. You already know exercise is good for you, but what about all the other things in life that affect your fitness? If you're looking for extra motivation to get started or to make sure you keep going, this is the place for you.
Produced by BeginWithin.fit.
My guest today is Frank Davis. He's the founder and CEO of Optivida Health. And we are going to talk today about some very interesting concepts when it comes to food quality. In the health and fitness space, so often we talk about food quantity. We spend a lot of time, a lot of effort on trying to optimize the quantity that we're eating so that we can get the results that we want. And we even start looking at macronutrients, right? Proteins, carbs, fats, and try to optimize those for the results that we want to get, whatever it is, gaining muscle, losing weight. But what we're going to talk about today is optimizing our health, really optimizing our bodies to be the healthiest that they possibly can be right now through the nutrients that we consume. And Frank is going to point out some alarming issues with our current food supply. And we've talked about this before on the Begin Within Health show, the idea that so much of the food that is consumed, most of the food that's consumed in the United States is ultra processed. We've talked about the concerns with regard to that. But we are going to go even further in the interview. So what I want you to listen for is the compromised food system, even when it comes to unprocessed foods that we would say are unprocessed whole foods. Frank is going to talk about that, share some really interesting specific statistics. So listen for those. And he's going to talk about the journey that he personally went on in order to start his company. We're also going to talk about the importance of noticing a difference when you make changes, whatever it is, when you start using a new supplement or eating in a different way, really the differences that we should be looking for in changes that we make to our nutrition. Here's my interview with Frank Davis.
I started off my life with every childhood disease known to man.
Okay.
And I think I was, for all intents and purposes, raised on antibiotics, which I'm convinced in retrospect significantly impacted my immune system because besides having all of the childhood diseases, I ended up, with a very compromised immune system that I facetiously used to joke that if anybody drove by with the window down and had a cold, I caught it. It was just, I ended up with pneumonia twice, hepatitis twice, mononucleosis twice. I had prostatitis, when I was still a young guy, and then had a reoccurrence of that. I just had constant stuff. And in my early 40s, I ended up with chronic fatigue syndrome. Now, even though I'm 77 years old, I'm what I call a wannabe athlete. I participate in every sport you can think of, and always have. And, and that was a major drawback in my trying to stay fit and participate, dealing with continuous health issues. So when I ended up with this chronic fatigue syndrome, I literally couldn't go on a walk with my wife when we go down to our condo in the southern part of the state. I'd have to make a bed in the back of Suburban. She'd drive, and it's just not
Mm.
me. And it was something that said, I cannot live my life like this. I'm a type A personality. This was like, a death sentence. So I started just digging deep. I said, got to be a solution. I went to doctors. Some, wanted to recommend antidepressants. I said, I'm not depressed. I'm discouraged, but and I live in an area that is the capital of network marketing. So everybody had a solution, and I was willing to try
Okay.
it all. I would drink black stuff, gag stuff down, but nothing worked. Nothing was making an impact. Then a friend of mine with the university here told me about a symposium that was being put on in Park City, Utah, by a number of universities. It was entitled Foods as a Medicine. I
Mm.
went to that symposium. They introduced it by saying there had been more research done in the last 5 years than the prior 200 years, linking every known illness, every known disease to some form of dietary deficiencies.
Okay.
And then each presenter then presented all of their research studies that would show what it was in foods, in specific foods, the phytonutrients, the polyphenols, the vitamins, the minerals, the antioxidants, all of them that were designed and to prevent and cure disease, to enable the body to heal itself and to keep it functioning the way it was designed to function. So it was kind of an aha moment for me.
Mm-hmm.
One of the presenters, extremely well done presentation, well documented, well researched. I raised my hand and I said, I buy into this 100%, but I have a question. Isn't there a wide variance of nutrient value in foods depending on where it's grown, how long it's been in transport, whether you cook it or not, etc.?
Mm-hmm.
She said, absolutely. And I said, so how do you know you're getting all these nutrients you're saying can either prevent or cure disease? It seems like it's a guessing game. Wouldn't it make sense if you could get it in a concentrated, whole food concentrated form? You could submit it to a lab and you could basically know that all those nutrients were there. I grew up on a farm. I was very well aware of modern farming techniques, the lack of mulching, the lack of rotation, the use of
Mm.
pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, the length of time from harvest to market and consumption. So I was pretty aware that we have a very compromised food system today, that they're grown in nutrient deficient soils. The average fruit and vegetable travels 1,600 miles, etc. We cook it, we irradiate it, we chemically treat it. It's just all sorts of different things. It has nothing to do with maintaining the integrity of the food. It is just speed to market, and it is price and it's margin.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, it was the catalyst that said, okay, I know, one, I'm not disciplined enough to eat all these foods. Two, I don't want to go through all that exercise and find out there's not much in there, that I'm just
Right.
eating empty calories or fiber, whatever. So anyway, I ended up connecting with a registered dietitian who has her master's degree in clinical nutrition, who had developed for another company a whole food supplement. Basically, it was kind of like what I was envisioning, that you could take whole foods, get them in a very concentrated form, you could test it, and you would have the vitamins, the minerals, everything else that you needed. Anyway, I got on this product that she had developed, and within less than 30 days, I was out of my chronic fatigue. And so they were down in Arizona. I'd go down there, I'd take blood tests, I'd do this. And I was just I was amazed at how quickly, after 9 months, I came out of that chronic fatigue. And I basically said, now, if this can do this to me with somebody with a highly compromised immune system, I'm sure this will work with others. Anyway, I ended up hiring this lady. I said, can you improve upon this? This is about, and she said, absolutely, because the supplement industry is driven by margin and by story. What you can put on a label, what claims you can potentially make, but it's all driven by, got to hit certain margin requirements.
Mm-hmm.
I told her, throw away the checkbook. This is not about margin. This is about my health, your health, my family. I wasn't doing as a business. And so we evolved that, and with her help, and continued to evolve it to the point that, again, it's been the mantra of my business from day one. This is not about margin. This is a mission. And so basically, I went the following, this was my early 40s. I went the following 30 years with virtually no sickness at all. I didn't get the normal colds and flus during the times. I didn't get anything. I've had a few brushes, but I got a little lax on taking, going on a plane, forgetting all of my stuff,
Okay.
getting, but it was minor. But anyway, so that became, it became a business. I said, honestly, I can't produce all this stuff that I want for me without doing the minimum requirements for a manufacturer that would last me for 20 years. Well, they only have a 3-year shelf life. So I basically said, I got to share it. I've got to share what I've got, what it's done to me, what it can do, what I'm convinced it will do to others. And because today, no matter how hard you try, Nate, it's almost impossible to get the nutrients out of the food because it's not there. And so this formulation that I did, we call Complete Essentials, and it has over 100 fruits, vegetables, grains, botanicals, seeds, herbs, but all vetted out and then third-party tested before and after to validate that it has all the nutrients that are listed on the label. 100% RDA of all the vitamins, the minerals, all from foods. No synthetics, no chemicals, no isolates. As I dug into this, one of the things I found out and is just what I thought the food industry was compromised, and most people recognize that they're not getting, they're eating a nutrient deficient diet, so they supplement.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what I found out is the supplement industry is worse than the food industry in terms of margin driven and in terms of it's controlled by the pharmaceutical industry. They can't patent an apple, so they will take something and try to recreate in a synthetic chemical version something that occurs in nature so they can patent it and sell it.
Mm-hmm.
And all the vitamins, minerals that we take in most cases today are synthetic chemical isolates produced in chemical laboratories. They are drugs. They have side effects. But, and they're put in our cereals, they're put in our drinks, they're put in our pastas, they're put in, all the fortifications.
Mm-hmm.
Example just is if your listeners were to go in their pantry and look at any cold cereal, anything, take Cocoa Krispies, for example, it will have all these vitamins added in. Well, they are sprayed on. But if you just look at the nutritional panel where it says vitamin B6, almost without exception, whatever they're looking at in parentheses, it will show pyridoxine hydrochloride. What's that? All vitamins in nature are a compound, a complex. They're not a chemical isolate. So B6 in this pyridoxine hydrochloride is actually petroleum esters blended with hydrochloric acid and processed with formaldehyde. You can Google it, you can Wikipedia it. You can see that it is a dead, toxic, carcinogenic, inert chemical. And how does that benefit a live organism like the body? And then you look at B12, and I challenge anybody to go look. It almost without exception will say cyanocobalamin. Well, what is that? Well, cyano is cyanide. Again, I have the same argument. How does a dead, toxic, known carcinogen provide health benefit to a live organism like the body? But that is our supplement industry. It's in everything.
Mm-hmm.
And so you've got to get it from whole foods. But if it's not in the foods unless you're growing it at home and eating it within 6 hours consumption, you're definitely losing it. A USDA study alone showed that when you harvest spinach, within 24 hours, even if you refrigerate it, you lose 90% of the vitamin C content. Within a week, you'll lose approximately 50% of the other nutrients. Vitamin C happens to be one of the most volatile, and that's why it goes so quickly. So, I live in a cold climate. You live in a cold climate. Where do you get spinach during the winter? I mean, where does it come from? How long has it been in transport? How much vitamin C is in there in the first place? How much iron? It's negligible if existent.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what drove me to say, I ended up finding a technology that could reduce any fruit, any vegetable, any food to a powder form with zero loss of any nutrients, color, or flavor. And then we further have processed that a water-based extraction to actually get it into a more concentrated form. But we test for all the nutrients that are in that food. If it's broccoli, how much sulforaphane do we have? And that's how I can say there is equivalent of a pound of broccoli in every serving of this, what I call complete essentials that we have, because we test it for the sulforaphane. And you'd have to eat a pound of raw broccoli to get that much sulforaphane.
Talking to the right guy, Frank. I love broccoli. I love it.
Good. Well, and that's the anti-cancer compound in broccoli. It's the anti-inflammatory. But that's how I have it in there. And so when I go 100% of RDA of all of them, I just put enough of every fruit, vegetable, all the phytonutrients, all of the whole foods in there so that I can test it to a third party to make sure that I've got that amount of nutrients in the product.
Wow.
I credit that candidly, singly, bringing me out of chronic fatigue and keeping me healthy for the last 35 years.
Nice. Wow. What blew my mind there, the data that you shared on, and I know the concept, once we pick it, it starts losing its nutrients, but to realize how quickly that's happening, is mind blowing to me, that just within hours, right?
Yeah. I mean, within 6 hours, the oxidation process starts. Some go a lot slower. Some nutrients go a lot slower. Vitamin C is the most volatile, so that will go very quickly. But yeah, that I can forward it to you. It's a USDA study showing that. It's not information that I'm peeling off anywhere.
And I've heard it, I've heard that same concept explained in terms, I guess the concept that our produce doesn't have the the nutrients that it should, just in terms of like soil quality being so low as compared to what it ideally would be in its makeup. But in addition to that, there's this um, oxidation process that's taking place for everything, even if it's picked at its just prime condition, right?
Absolutely. Again, a USDA study showed that the quality of our soils, and that in the last 50 years, and they go down, and there was a government study from Canada also showing all these different foods and the amount of decrease of nutrition. But I would say overall, there is at least a 50% decrease in the nutrient value of foods over the last 30 to 50 years,
Hmm.
based on the quality of the soils, et cetera, and all these modern farm things. But it's to me, it's a lot worse than that, but that's saying all things being equal,
Mm-hmm.
it's down there. But that doesn't take into consideration the use of the pesticides, the herbicides, the fungicides, which actually inhibit the uptake of minerals from the soil in the plant. So, Roundup, which is used a lot, glyphosate is proven to inhibit the uptake of minerals from the soil. So you can't even get the nutrients. They can't do it. So, again, what we're eating today nutritionally is a fraction of what it used to be, and certainly not providing the body with the nutrients it needs to function the way it was designed to need, to
Mm-hmm.
designed to function.
Mm-hmm.
And I've used this analogy. I think most of us are operating on four cylinders because we're giving ourselves four-cylinder fuel and have no idea that we were created with eight cylinders, that we have that capacity. And
Mm.
when you start nourishing your body on a cellular level and start providing those nutrients that your body finally can get what it needs, you will notice a difference. You'll notice an energy difference, a stamina difference, a mental difference. So, it kind of wakes you up. And I just talking to actually as a friend of mine that had some health issues, and I took him over some of this complete essentials. He had some heart issues, and he walked over to my garage yesterday while I was out there, and he said, "I need some more of that complete." And he said, "Nobody will ever know what it does until they take it and then stop taking it." And he said, I can tell you, I can notice such a difference. I can't afford to run out of it. And he's trying to, eat right, do the right things, etc. But the bottom line is, our body knows what it needs.
Mm.
It's not coming from the foods we're getting today. It's certainly not coming from supplements that we're buying out of the drugstore. It's got to come from foods. It's got to come from those that are concentrated and that they can test it. And we eliminate the guessing game of, does this carrot have any vitamin A in it?
Yeah.
Where was it grown? How long has it been in transport? Et cetera.
Wow. Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing your story, Frank, as well as the science behind the product. What's the best way for somebody to get in touch with you or get access to the product that you're talking about?
There's obviously a couple of ways. One is I have a website. It's called www.optivida, Optivida health.com.
Okay.
And Nate, we can certainly, give your listeners a code that they could go on and get a discount so that they can try it.
Okay. Nice.
Because I think tasting is believing. It's
Yeah,
experiencing it is believing.
that'd be
Uh,
awesome.
and you just tell me. I mean, we'll give them a 15%. I could put Nate 15 or whatever you want on
Okay.
there on the as they check out to get that. And
Sure.
but it will make a difference. They'll feel a difference.
Awesome. I love it. So let's do this. I'll shoot you an email after, and we'll get the code figured out, and then I'll share it at the close of the episode for those that want to
Okay.
check it out, and we'll have it in the show notes as well for them.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, and I'll
uh,
put a toll-free number in that they can call.
okay, awesome. Wow, Frank Davis, thank you so much for being here on the Begin Within Health Show.
You're more than welcome.
Such a great conversation. I thank Frank Davis and his team for making him available for the interview, as well as providing us all with the discount that Frank mentioned in the interview. There's a link in the show notes to get to the website, and then use that code that he mentioned. That's Nate15, NATE 15, to get 15% off your purchase there. Check that out. I'm going to be checking it out. Amanda and I will be trying it. And what I want to just talk about briefly before I let you go is the idea that Frank touched on toward the conclusion of our conversation. Of course, we talked a lot about the compromised food system that we have and some of the reasons behind it. But the data is the data, right? But the idea that he wrapped up with, he told that story of his friend who stopped over. And I think it outlines a key element of making adjustments for the sake of our health. And I know that many of you are fitness enthusiasts. You're here to be fitter versions of the person that you are. We're working on that. But really, when we talk about fitness, what we're talking about is health. The healthier versions of ourselves are fitter versions, right? This idea that when we're making changes, what are we really after? How do we know if we made an adjustment that is the right thing, right? How do we know we're on the right track? How do we know that the thing that we added in to our nutrition or the thing we took away from our lifestyle, whatever it is, how do we know that that was the right decision? I think Frank touched on something super important. We should notice a difference. We should notice a difference. If we're on the right track, we should notice a difference. We should feel a difference. And if we're really on the right track, it should be enough of a difference for us to say, I have to keep doing this. The way that I feel is so good. I have to continue on this path. Isn't that a cool way to look at the choices that we're making when it comes to health and fitness? The things that we're adding in, the things that we're taking away, is to really be open and honest about the difference that we're experiencing as a result of those adjustments. This is something that we recommend that our clients do all the time. In fact, weekly, if not more often, at least weekly, to take some time. And we recommend that we do it on a Friday. So we encourage and coach our clients to do this every single week, to reflect on the progress, reflect on the process. Is it working? Is it serving them? And that is such a wonderful way to look at it. Am I experiencing a difference in the changes that I'm making? As an action step, I want to encourage you, of course, there's again a link in the show notes to check out something that you can add in that Frank mentioned is going to make a difference. But just to reflect, here's the action step. Just reflect on the process of your improvement, of your health improvement. Are you feeling a difference? If not, don't give up on the process, but make different choices and keep reflecting back. Am I experiencing a difference? Am I feeling a change? Enough of a change to keep me going. If you are, the process becomes self-sustaining. If you're not, continue to make other choices. Other choices can always be made. We can always make more adjustments. I hope you have fun with this. I'd love to hear and share the conclusions that you draw as you do this self-reflection. Please feel free to reach out to me on social media at Nate Slager. And if you would be so kind to share this episode with someone that you care about, as well as rating and reviewing the show in your podcast player, that helps others to find it, to keep us in the top 10% of all podcasts. I thank you so much for doing that, for your support. It makes such a difference to me and to what I do each and every day. Thanks again for sharing your attention with me here. And please take care of yourself. I'll talk with you again soon.